Hi everybody, welcome to the 21,000 subscriber FAQ. Thank you so much for joining this channel. We are celebrating, we are just, kicking back and answering some of your questions. It's kind of crazy because I looked back at the other FAQs and by coincidence, we always do one of these every 7,000 subscribers. I'm not planning this. 7,000 doesn't mean anything specifically, but it's just a very good time to do FAQ right now. And it just so happens to be 7,000 subscribers after the previous FAQs. What can I say? It's a magical number. Anyways, let us jump straight in. The first question is from Agent071W. Have you ever thought about hosting a Pico 8 game jam? Yes, I mean, I kind of did, right? That was what the basic Shmup showcase was all about. That was technically a game jam. It was hosted on itch.io. And I would gladly do it again. People were asking me if I should do this also for the advanced Shmup tutorial. I think the advanced Shmup stuff is just so advanced, and the shmups are so complicated. I'm not thinking the advanced shmup showcase makes much sense. I'd rather be talking about all of the beautiful advanced shmups that came out during my work on the advanced shmup tutorial. So I'm talking about all those beautiful shmups from Louis Chapman, Loki Striker, Eric, and Buster Erman, all those beautiful shmups that came out during this time. I love to showcase them a bit more. I might do a special video on those because I think these are beautiful, beautiful creations that deserve their spotlight. I mean, those are really popular shmups by their own rights, but also I wanted to also talk about them as well. Yeah, so whenever I do like a game jam or like a showcase, I would love it to be something that is linked to a project that is currently ongoing on this channel. There haven't been a lot of new projects on this channel before, so therefore, there were not many game jams. I would prefer to avoid doing kind of like just vanilla game jams because I feel that's something that's very well done already by existing communities. There's plenty of Pico 8 game jams. There's also plenty of game jams that you can join and use Pico 8. Pico 8 is just an engine. You can use it for any game jam, right? It is true that I might do a better job at covering all those Pico 8 specific game jams. And I agree, that's something I should maybe focus on more in the future. Now, if you're talking about game jams as something that is physical, we're doing like game jam in person, which I think is very fun, but I just don't know a lot of people who work with Pico 8 personally in my real life. I was planning to do maybe like a Pico 8 workshop at the Amaze Festival in Berlin this year, but sadly that didn't pan out for various reasons. I want to repeat this again in 2026, so I want to try again in 2026. I'll keep you posted if that pans out. Next question by Dr. Paneas. Would you consider making a game for a retro console, e.g. Game Boy, GBA, or NES, instead of a fantasy one for your next project? Oh yes, absolutely, totally. Oh man, yeah, there's lots of cool things that you can do with retro consoles, and it's actually kind of like a very nice transition going from Pico 8 to an actual console, because visually it looks very similar, right? And you also have to deal with restrictions, but the restrictions are kind of like, they have more of an edge to it. But also you have like all this beautiful hardware that you can toy around with. So that's really fun. If you are following me on Coffee, you already know that I had some really cool hardware projects happening in the past and still ongoing hardware projects. I built this thing here. It's right behind me all the time. That is a card reader. This thing can read physical cards of retro consoles and save them as ROMs. I built this, I learned how to build this, and I was thinking about me using this to kind of like hack in stuff. Something I did in a previous seminar that I did with some of my students. One of my students used GB Studio to make a Game Boy game, a very short Game Boy game. And I used this to flash that Game Boy game on an actual physical card. And they were able to play their own game on an actual physical Game Boy. And that was pretty magical. Yeah, so I'm totally down with that kind of stuff. It's just the question of where to start and how to go about it. I think GB Studio might be a good thing to check out. Yeah, absolutely. That's something that would be fun. Also, I saw a lot of cool resources on how to do NES or Famicom stuff, and that was something that I would be also into very much. Something I always wanted to do is kind of one of those ROM hacks or like a colorization project. You take, Game Boy game and turn it into a Game Boy Color game. That would be fun. Non-Legend asked, you ask for future project suggestions. Have you considered making a game for the Playdate? It's rather similar to Pico 8, Lua-based, restricts developers to a 1-bit art style and has a unique crank functionality. Yes, I am very much familiar with the Playdate. I actually received a very early dev kit built back when I was in China. I still have it around, and it's still there among all my other handhelds. A unique look behind the scenes. I even at one point submitted a proposal to Panic I pitched them a Pork-like 2 port for the Playdate, which they didn't respond to, but also like I feel that the launch for the Playdate was a little bit, I think Panic was a little bit overwhelmed with all the stuff that happened. So I'm not surprised that this didn't pan out, but I still would be interested maybe to do more with the Playdate in the future. I probably won't do like a tutorial about the Playdate just yet before I even have anything out. I would have to experiment with it a little bit more. And this might be now a good moment to do that. One thing I noticed that makes working with Playdate a little bit difficult is that because I basically sat down with the dev kit and I did some experiments. I did some early, like Hello World kind of stuff. And I did some like screen designs of how Pork-like might look like on a Playdate. And something that struck me immediately is that the graphics are a big problem because you cannot just take sprites from Pico 8 to Playdate for two reasons. One is the Playdate has a way higher resolution screen. The screen is really small, but it's very high resolution. So if you put sprites from Pico 8, which have really chunky pixels, they are too tiny. They're not really readable. So you have to redraw the pixels at a higher resolution. But also the Playdate has no colors, not even like grayscale. It's just black and white. And that makes just making graphics for it uniquely challenging. And so you cannot just take an existing Pico 8 game and just port it to Playdate. I mean, you could, but I don't think that would result in a good looking game. So I realized, yeah, okay, that's a can of worms, and I kind of set it aside. But now might be a good time to get it out again. All right, so Master Coding 101 asks, so there's not a lot of tutorials for beginners for Picotron. Is a tutorial series for Picotron planned or still deciding what should be next? Yes, absolutely. So I received from a lot of people suggestions, or a lot of people were begging me to do something on Picotron. I heard the message. The message is very clear. Yes, I absolutely want to do something with Picotron next. I want to get more into Picotron. Now, the problem is I cannot actually do a tutorial on Picotron. I could port one of my existing tutorials onto Picotron. We could do a basic Shmup on Picotron with basically no changes. All of the code would translate straight into Picotron. But the thing is with Picotron, I feel like the challenge is not so much the programming side of things, like that's the same as in Pico 8 in many ways, but it's more of like understanding the system and what it can do and all the things it can do that Pico 8 cannot do, right? And that's something that's kind of difficult to wrap your head around. That's something where I feel I need more experience with myself. And so like I want to first give myself a little bit time to get into Picotron a little bit more and to make my own projects on it for a while. And then once I have a good understanding, a good grasp of what Picotron is for myself, then I can maybe create like a basic tutorial for it. But yes, absolutely. We're going to dig into some more specific genre suggestions in a second. And with each of those suggestions, I'm thinking like, is Picotron a good platform for this? And that quite often already answers a lot of the questions. S. Pikmin asks, congratulations on finally finishing the project. I had a wonderful afternoon playing it, and I want to say thank you so much for bringing us this wonderful series. As for future content, I think Picotron would be great to see more of. Covering more of Pico 8's advanced capabilities would be interesting too, like 3D stuff or using GPIO pins with JavaScript. Even elementary introductory coverage of those topics would be super interesting to see in video form, especially with your style. Yeah, I love that idea. So this is actually really good because I just finished a very long project and I kind of like don't want to start another big project, right? So like ideas for short videos is something I very, very much appreciate. And these are really good ideas. 3D stuff, I always wanted to maybe dig a little bit into like mode 7 kind of graphics or like what is it? Ray tracing, not ray tracing, scan. What's the term for those Wolfenstein kind of games, right? So doing like a Wolfenstein kind of game, GPIO pins with JavaScript is absolutely something that's on my mind right now because I want to release. I'm currently this month I'm working on releasing the Cattle Crisis on Newgrounds. And with that, I want to maybe do like a plug into the API of Newgrounds so you can have scoreboards or maybe even achievements. And that's usually done with JavaScript and GPIO stuff. So I have to like relearn again how that works, because it's a couple of years ago since I did it last time around. And also I know that the script that I had previously had some bugs. So maybe I will dig into it, and then maybe I can pop out a short tutorial on how to make that work. That would be cool. I would be absolutely down with that kind of thing. All right, so this one is a bit of a more critical comment from DevilOFeather6185. Do you think you can maybe make a new tutorial where you aren't figuring out what the game is going to be while you're making it? It is not much of a tutorial if you are fixing a majority of the game. Also, the length is crazy to follow, almost 100 episodes over 30 minutes in length. It would be great if it was much easier to digest. Yes, so this is a bit of a critical comment, which I appreciate and welcome. Now, with this comment, there are some things that I completely disagree with, but some things I absolutely agree with. So the thing I disagree with is that a tutorial where you are fixing the game or figuring out what the game is, I disagree that that's not a tutorial. In fact, I would say it's the exact opposite. So I think if you prepared the entire project so well in advance that there is no decision making involved in making the project, you just like type it out basically. You just have it already coded and you just type out over. That's not a good indication of how programming really works. In real programming, you are constantly, working with live code, right? You're scaffolding, you're building stuff that doesn't quite work, but it gets you kind of like halfway there, and then you're fixing it and you're figuring stuff out. You have to code under crazy assumptions. You don't quite know what the game is, but you have to already create something to kind of figure out what the game is as you go. That's what makes game making difficult. And if your tutorial doesn't include that kind of stuff, then it's not really a good tutorial. I agree, it's easier to digest. It's kind of fun to see somebody just crank out the code, it's kind of very satisfying, right? But that kind of tutorial won't really prepare you for making your own games, because that's not how it will work when you are at the keyboard. It's kind of like in cooking shows, where they cook, and then, some complicated part comes or something that takes a long time, and they're like, oh, whoop, I prepared something, and then it's already finished. That's not really cooking. That's not how it works when I cook. So yeah, I think we disagree on that. However, I do agree that the recent tutorial, the advanced Shmup tutorial, was too long. And it kind of like also wasn't really tutorial at the end, because it was so very specific. I was so like in the weeds of what I'm doing in this specific game that it was very difficult for me to kind of like abstract it away and turn it into lessons that other people can take away from. So I think in the future, I would probably look into packaging this kind of big project differently, not so much as a tutorial, but more of as a devlog or something like this, in which case it would be something more that Devil Feather kind of expects, something that is more edited down, something that's more of a story rather than, like this live footage of me making the game. We're going to talk about this in a second. All right, so let's step into some of the genre recommendations or genre requests. A lot of you sent beautiful genre requests, and there are some recurring motifs I'm recognizing. Here is a comment from Misia, a longtime supporter. Congrats on the release of this amazing game. I'm garbage at shmups, but even I can see that it's a fantastic achievement. Thank you so much. And for new tutorial game suggestion, I'd love to see a top-down action adventure a la Final Fantasy Adventure. I think that would present some really good, interesting tech challenges. Misia. Misia has been following what I've been doing all this time in the meantime. Yes, Final Fantasy Adventure is one of my favorite Game Boy games. It's kind of like a Zelda-like. I've been speedrunning it. I've been live streaming it. You can actually check it out at my private Twitch channel. I actually haven't done a run in a while. I have to get back on it. But yes, one of the reasons why I was like very interested in Final Fantasy Adventure is that it would be a quite formidable challenge to get it on something like this on Pico 8. I'm not sure if I can pull it off, but on Picotron, that's actually quite doable. And so I'm actually thinking about how to do maybe a Zelda-like. A lot of people wanted to have a Zelda-like, and I think that would be a fun project to try out. Now, this will require some pre-production. Something that that has been on my mind all this time is kind of like how to make this a bit of a unique project. I don't want this to be, because there's lots of Zelda clones out there, obviously, and I don't want it to be just another Zelda clone. I don't want people to look at a game like this and be like, oh, that's just Zelda with the serial numbers filed off, For example, there's this game I saw on Switch, which I got, and I heard it is a really good game. I haven't played for a long time, but it seems like a very good game. It's called Blossom Tales. And yeah, people love it a lot, but also it just looks like Zelda. It just looks like Zelda with the serial numbers filed off, and I would love to develop something that is a bit more unique, that has a more of an identity on its own. So just give you an idea what I mean. One game that I'm actually obsessed about and I'm actually looking forward to is the upcoming game by the company Yacht Club, the people who made Shovel Knight. They are working on a game called Mina the Hollower, and it's been announced a while ago. I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of like my Silk Song. Like a lot of people are looking forward to Silk Song. I understand, but that's not where my heart is. I'm down with Mina the Hollower. Yeah, and I think that's a good example of a game that is very much belongs in the same genre as Zelda, but it's not just doing the same thing as Zelda. It has its own identity, its own visual style. It's doing its own thing. And that's something that's very important to me, and that's something that needs a lot of work. Another game which I haven't played, honestly, but also I think belongs in there is Isles of Sea and Sky, which is not exactly Zelda. It's more of a Sokoban Zelda thing, but absolutely also something that looks unique and looks not just like a Zelda game, but something else. You know, it has its own style. I'm actually collecting some of those games to kind of check them out to see what they're doing. I also have this game on Steam, which I haven't played. None of these games I played, called Veritus. So I don't know, is Veritus good? I should maybe check it out. Finally, I already have some ideas where this could go, and I want to maybe do like a separate brainstorm video. I will probably make this available for the coffee supporters. It will be more of a behind the scenes video until we're ready for prime time to release it on the actual channel. But also I'm doing research, as you saw. There's lots of games I haven't played it yet. I need to check them out. If you have any cool suggestions for unique Zelda style games, please post them in the comment section. I would love to hear about them. Now, Elo here asks, they actually also wanted to have Zelda, but then decided that maybe we could do a cute Sokoban puzzle game where you push boxes into buttons as a small palate cleanser. I like that part in the old Pokemon games with the ice slipping and holes falling from the floor to one below. That could be interesting and relatively small. Yes, absolutely. That's a fantastic idea. And this is what also, like, now we're building the ideas, right? So if you're going for a Zelda game, then that would be a very, very good like a basic shmup tutorial kind of version of that. You know, just make first the Sokoban clone tutorial and then expand it into like a whole big adventure. I think that would be a perfect way to pull this off. I would love to do a Sokoban game. I think Sokoban games or like Labyrinth kind of games are also very good for beginners. So yeah, I think that's a very good idea. Long-time supporter Smelly Fish Sticks asks, yeah, as someone who has made a lot of platformers, I would be interested with all sorts of different methods and ways you could detect and resolve collision. A platformer series would be cool. I'd also love to talk about data compression in general. I wonder if the PCM feed and maybe even talking about how QAR or QPA works would be interesting. I don't know what QAR and QPA to be honest, I don't know. Maybe you can do a series about this. Yes, so Smelly Fish Sticks talks about platformers, and that's also something that a lot of other people asked. A lot of people want to have me to do platformers. It is commonly requested. I have like two major problems with platformers, or maybe three. I'm not saying no. I definitely want to do this because it's so commonly requested. I just have to figure out how. So the one problem I have is that nerdy teachers already did a great tutorial on platformers. And the question for me then becomes, okay, what can I contribute? What can I do better than nerdy teachers? I mean, redundancy doesn't have to be necessarily bad. It's fine to just do another tutorial on this topic, and maybe some details will be different and that will appeal to a different audience. But also, I feel like platformers are very prolific in Pico 8. There's like a lot of really good platformers, a lot of really good like Metroidvanias and so forth. And again, the question is then, what can I do better? How can I make a platformer that does something special, something new, something that makes it stand out? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure what could that be. That's something I'm still looking for. And another question I have is like, is even a platformer good for Picotron? I feel like the big strengths with Picotron, because again, I wanted to maybe do the next project in Picotron, right? So like then I would maybe stay in Pico 8, and then people would love me to dig more into Picotron. So it's a bit of a pickle. But maybe a platformer for Picotron is fine too. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like a genre that really benefits from the unique features of Picotron. As I said, it is a very common request, and I'm still trying to figure out how to make that work. I have some ideas though. Now, talking about compression, again, some of those acronyms, I have no idea what it means. I would have to dig into it. Maybe I'm already familiar with. I'm just not familiar with the acronym. Something that the Shmup tutorial taught me is that quite often good compression takes advantage of the context. That's something I also talked about in the previous FAQ. Like just doing a compression algorithm without any context is a bit of a coding flex. It's something like for the computer science people, and I'm not a computer science person. I'm more of a pragmatist kind of person. I want to use compression algorithms for specific purposes. So when I was looking for a compression algorithm for the Shmup tutorial, none of those fit because none of those were taking advantage of the unique situation I was in. I actually wanted to focus not so much on the compression size, but actually on the token mount. There's always like different restrictions under which you operate, and you kind of like a good compression algorithm always takes that into account. Just creating a compression algorithm in a vacuum doesn't seem that interesting to me. I'd leave maybe that for the computer science nerds. But maybe I will at some point stumble across an algorithm that can be maybe reused for different projects, and then I would be interested to talk about it. I was actually already thinking about this when we had the sprite system for the advanced Shmup. It feels like if I do some polishing runs on this, that could be maybe like a universal sprite system that can be used for different games. Show me the treat, he asks. I think expanding the Shmup on Picotron would be awesome. I have been craving more Picotron resources, so some videos on you converting and expanding via Picotron would be sweet. As far as next games, I would really love to see something in the strategy realm. I like RTS, and I think that would be a cool Pico project, but anything strategy would be awesome. Oh man, yes, RTS. Whew. Not a lot of people ask for that. That's not necessarily a very, very popular demand, but also a very interesting request, because I feel like I wouldn't call that a good Pico project. I would actually say that RTS would be actually really, really good for Picotron, because you have the mouse controls, you have higher resolution, you have a lot more graphics to work with and bigger maps. So I feel like this is actually a project that is uniquely well suited for Picotron, which makes it very interesting to me. Now, I was actually considering doing a when I played Undune 2, I was actually already considering maybe thinking about, what if you could do the same thing to Command & Conquer? But now with Picotron, that seems actually really cool, like to do like a Command & Conquer Picotron demake. That would be fun. Although I'm not that big of a fan of Command & Conquer, but I see the appeal, so maybe that would be fun. Cards on the table. There is one RTS game that is my dream project. Everybody has their dream project, the thing that you really want to make at some point, but it's like never the right time, and you're just like, it's always you always keep circling back to it and think about it. And my dream project is making like a spin-off or like like a game inspired by the all-time classic that everybody knows, the game Leviathan, the Tone Rebellion from the Logic Factory. Ah, yes. All of the sickles out there, put up your CDs in the air. Leviathan, woo! Yeah, no, nobody knows about this game. It's kind of almost lost media. It's not really lost media, but kind of almost. Came out in 1996. It is kind of an RTS, but it's a very strange RTS. Very strange setting, very strange mechanics. Very strange music, but beautiful music. If you look for the Tone Rebellion on the internet, you will probably find me talking very closely to the microphone, very early version of Christian, doing a tutorial on how to play in the Tone Rebellion. It is a wild game. Nobody wants that. Nobody demands this, but I demand it. And maybe that's one of those kind of blue sky kind of projects where it's like, I'm going to do something really crazy and off the hook, and convince you that this game has potential. It's not a great game, all right? It's not a great game, but it has potential. It's a third eye-opening kind of game. Maybe not as in the next Picotron project, but down the line, absolutely. BitoJL2102. I enjoy watching the develop of this game. Congrats on the release. As a suggestion of new content, right now turn-based combat is in the eyes of everyone. Maybe a Pico 8 or Picotron easy turn-based combat game. Maybe an Advance Wars kind of game. Really? Is turn-based combat in the eyes of everyone? Did I not get the memo? I don't know. Is it really? That's a wild claim. do let me know. Like, where's the party at? I'm down. Yeah, I think some other people suggested this as well, like a turn-based kind of like Advance Wars kind of game. There is a bit of a problem with that I have. First of all, I think it's a really great match for Picotron. Just let me get it out. I think, again, high resolution mouse-based controls. I think that's really great for Picotron. I have a bit of an issue, and that is the way these turn-based combat kind of games like TRPGs, the way these play out are, I kind of dislike them. Not that I dislike playing them, it's fine. I just recently played Disgaea 5 for the first time and finished it all the way through, and it was fine. But it's not the kind of game I would love to do myself. I find them a bit formulaic, and I find them just a little bit, you're going through the motions, and there's very little actual tactics involved. It says tactics on the tin, but there's very little tactics involved. It's more just moving your guys around a little bit and shuffling them around, you know. It's not really like, it's just more like attacking them until they die, and less about, you know, just positioning and really thinking through and creating some cool strategies or something like this. So if I make a game in this genre, I would love for it to be something that has my own spin to it, that actually is about cool strategies and cool tactics. So one of my favorite games of all time, my favorite strategy games of all time, I think it's the GOAT. It has some incredible game design decisions that I champion and will always praise to the highest degree, is Into the Breach. The game Into the Breach is one of the best strategy/tactics kind of games, because it's not like the other games like Advance Wars and Disgaea and so forth. There is actually interesting strategy involved. And, you know, every single turn you're about to die, and you have to turn the tables around every single time, and it's incredible, and I love it. But the thing is, like, I just can't make another Into the Breach, right? And like, just doing a copy of Into the Breach seems like a heresy. I don't know. I have too much respect towards Into the Breach. So the question would be, how can I somehow reach those heights with a new spin, new system on my own? And I'm not sure what that could be. But again, it's a really good match for Picotron. So if I only stumble on some kind of cool twist or some kind of cool principle, then that would be definitely something I would be down for. Porkmancer, oh man, that's a cool name, asks, not a bad release, great game. High praise. Plays very well on my Mio Mini. For the next project, I propose a fighting game in Picotron. Something like Street Fighter or Primal Rage. It would be a totally different type of game than usual, with some unique challenges to overcome. If that seems a bit much, how about a tower defense game? All right, so this is the first one where I'm just going to straight up say no. I'm not going to do a fighting game. There's two reasons for that. First of all, it's kind of, I'm developing it on my own. And fighting games are kind of like a two-player kind of game. You have to have two players. You can have AI, but it's fighting games are not great against AI. It's more of a couch co-op kind of game, or not co-op, couch competitive kind of game. So if I'm working on this on my own, it's just hard for me to play test this, right? And that makes it just like a no starter for me. But even if I had a second person around, even then I would still probably not choose fighting games because if you get the same problem on the other end, right? It's difficult to play them if you don't have a second person. So quite often you release the games and nobody will play them because they don't have a second person they can play it against. So yeah, I don't see me doing a fighting game. I think if there was more of a online multiplayer component to Picotron, which there might be in the future, but not right now, then maybe. But even then, fighting game wouldn't be even the first one, because it's like the delay, and you have to do like frame rewinding kind of thing. It's like it's just such a tall order, and it's hard to do, and it's kind of like a thankless kind of game, right? You make it and then nobody plays it. Now, if you're talking about a brawler, like a beat 'em up kind of game, that's a whole completely different story. That's something that would be actually cool. Might be also even better for Picotron than on Pico 8, because Pico 8 is kind of like, there were some cool experiments recently. The developer of Fighting Rage, I think, that's the name. They made a really cool, like a very short brawler, and it was really cool, but also very, very short because you ran out of tokens and sprites immediately in Pico 8. It just requires a lot of sprites. And so maybe doing something on Picotron would be fun. Now, tower defense is totally something that is really good for Picotron for the same reasons that strategy games and real-time strategy games are a good match for Picotron. Now, the thing is, I also already made a video about how I don't think, like I made a video of bad genres as your first game, and tower defense was on it. And I think the reasons why it's a bad game for your first, or bad genre for your first game, are the same reasons why I'm kind of apprehensive about actually tackling this. It's kind of hard to make a very good one. You can get the basics down, you can get the units moving, and you have your tower shooting at the units, and that's all of this is doable. That's just coding, you know. But then how do you make it fun? That's something I don't quite understand myself. It's a balance of like costs and how much you get from the enemies and how much things cost and the upgrade trees and so forth. And just like figuring out all that stuff seems daunting to me. Now, there's 3 games that give me kind of like hope for this, and that makes it so that this is not completely off the table. So one game, tower defense game that I love is Pixel Junk Monsters. I love the game because it uses it's a tower defense game where you have an avatar that you have a guy that you can walk around in the map, and that's how you interact with the towers. That's how you build the towers. You don't have a mouse cursor, but you have a guy that walks around. And that's really great for a console kind of setup. And so that's why I enjoyed Pixel Junk Monsters, and I don't see a lot of people using that kind of control setup for tower defense games. I would be interested in doing that. The second game that I really like, the second tower defense game, is Cursed Treasure. Cursed Treasure 2, and specifically. A friend of mine recommended it to me. He's like, oh, this is such a great tower defense game. So I was, how good can it be? It looks generic, you know? And yeah, it's sick. I don't know why. I would have to play more Cursed Treasure to find out why it's so sick. It's somehow something about it makes it really good. And like, you know, way above all the other tower defense games that I ever played. You know, if I have to play more Cursed Treasure to make my next game, then it's a very hard thing to do, but I will make the sacrifice. And the third game that I was actually interested in, because that had some innovations in it, is the gacha game, the mobile gacha game Arknights. I played it for a brief amount of time. Eventually, the gacha stuff really wore me down. I hate the gacha stuff. But the game had actually some cool ideas. So they had a tower defense game where you don't place towers. The towers are actually characters in your group. And so you place your characters, and the characters have equipment and so forth and different abilities. And something you can also do is you can reposition your character. So it's kind of like XCOM with tower defense. And I thought that was genius. And again, I don't see that too often. And that might be a cool thing to expand into a game that is not gacha slop, but actually good stuff. That's right, Arknights, consider yourself called out. All right, so moving on, some general questions about the future. We have 2 questions from the Gecko. One question is, where do you see Pico 8 and Picotron development leading in the future? Hopes, dreams, potential pitfalls. Okay, so for various reasons, which I will discuss in a second, I've been actually experiencing a lot of Pico 8 on handhelds. And something that gives me a lot of hope, and that makes me very excited, is that Pico 8 is kind of thriving on handhelds right now. A lot of handheld systems are supporting Pico 8 natively, and Pico 8 offers them a lot of games to play, right? It's a really good way to enjoy Pico 8 games. I've always been saying this, and more and more people are discovering this. And this gives me great hope for Pico 8 in the future. Now, the question I have right now is, will this be also true for Picotron? Will Picotron also find its place where people can enjoy all those games that will be created for it, hopefully at some point, right? I'm not sure about that, because Picotron is kind of like, it has like this whole desktop and mouse metaphor, and that doesn't, like, I imagine a lot of people will make Picotron games that are played with a mouse, and those won't be playable on a handhelds. And also the screen aspect ratio is different, so I'm not sure if this will have its home as much on the handhelds as Pico 8 does. So the thing I'm kind of like worried, or I'm wondering, is where will be the home for Picotron games? And something I hope is that we will see a lot of more commercial projects on Picotron. So like big teams actually choosing Picotron as their platform to make games on, rather than Lua Love or all the other alternatives. Obviously not the case right now, because we haven't seen good stuff being made in Picotron just yet, but I think there is potential for that, and that's kind of my hope for the future. I have one worry. I have one worry, and that is like this entire ecosystem hinges on one person, and that is Zep. And I'm worried about Zep. Zep, are you all right? Are you listening to this? Zep, come on. Please exercise self-care. There's a lot riding on you and you alone. Like, I feel like Zep is the George R.R. Martin of this universe. It's like it's clear that he really wants to make his stuff perfect, and when he cooks, he delivers. But also with Picotron and Pico 8 being happening at the same time, you can tell that things are slowing down, and that Zep has a lot on his shoulders. And if anything goes wrong at any point, some major life event happens that prevents Zep from working on this stuff, I hope there's a contingency plan. Fingers crossed on this one. Fingers crossed that everything will be fine. So far, everything was fine. Warm thoughts. The second question by the Gakko is, would you consider making another shmup? This series, Basic in Advanced, is a masterclass in delving deep into a genre in every way possible. I really liked it, especially as I wasn't entirely enthused about the genre at first, but now I really like the genre and respect the rules it created, i.e. no inertia. As you have previously said, it is probably the best genre for any budding game dev, etc. But yeah, just genuine interest in your feelings on the subject, having dedicated 2 to 3 years to shmups. That is a fantastic question, Gakko. What I'm doing here is insane. That's not how great games are being made in many ways. What you would generally do is you pick a genre and you make a game in it. And once you made one game, you take all of the learnings and you put it in the next game. And the next game it will be a little better and a little bit better. And eventually you hit like a stride. All of those experiences, all of the knowledge, and all of the tools that you have accumulated, they will allow you to make really outstanding games, truly outstanding games. That's what Cave did. That's what all of those big shmup developers did. All they did was just shmup, 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 and eventually incredible games come out. So what I'm doing here, just making a shmup and then moving on to a different genre, is kind of a bad idea. I kind of want to maybe return to shmups at some point. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But also, it's kind of hard to think about the second shmup if the current shmup is not quite finished yet, right? There was like the expanded version that I was talking about I want to be working on. So I'm not thinking about a second shmup yet. It would be nice to take some of the designs that I had in a pre-production of the Advanced Shmup tutorial and turn some of those designs into actual games, like take the path not taken. There were some designs in there that I fell in love with myself, and I would love to revisit them and do some more outrageous stuff, some stuff that really paints outside the lines when it comes to shmups. I'm not sure if I will return to shmups again. I'm not gonna decide this right now. I think that's a future Christian problem to solve. First, I want to finish the expanded version of Cattle Crisis. All right, and now finally moving on to some lighter questions. This is a question from NeoEdix. They wrote this comment underneath the final episode of the Advanced Shmup tutorial, and they say, 1 minute, what's the name of this handheld console? It's this console. It is the Embernic Cube XX, RG Cube XX. It is a console that I had for a while, and I had to finish the Advanced Shmup tutorial, but now I can actually review this. So that's something I'm working on right now. That's the video I'm working on this month. I want to review this because this has also a square screen like the RGB 30. It's probably also the same screen, and so I want to compare those two, and I want to see if this is the new best handheld to play Pico 8 games on. I can already spoil to you that yes, it probably is, but the question is by how much of an amount. If you already have an RGB 30, do you want to upgrade to RGB Cube XX? And I'm not sure about that. Maybe. Depends. We're going to see in the next video. Okay, final question from JP Lanti. What comics are you reading, Christian? So I think JP is maybe asking because I have some bunch of comics up in the background here. Yeah, I've been collecting, like if you're following me on Coffee, you know that I've been collecting American comics for a while. There's a really great comic book store here in Bonn, and I've been visiting regularly and following some DC and Marvel comics kind of things from America. I kind of stopped. And that is basically because first of all, it's kind of difficult to stay on track on any given series. Sometimes issues not appear in my store and it's like I have to track them down. It's very annoying. But also I haven't found a series where I thought, okay, I just want to just continue reading this. At some point I felt I had enough of those. The one series that I collected the most is this one here. That's Ghost Spider. So like Spider-Gwen, which I loved from the movies, from the Spider-Verse movies. And I want to be like, okay, I want to get into those comics. And the problem is that the Spider-Gwen in the comics is very different from the Spider-Gwen in the movie. It's not the same vibe, and it's always a disappointment. There is, I think, one comic or so from the Spider-Gwen comic oeuvre, that is a little bit similar to the movies, but otherwise it's all just a little bit different and in a way that I don't like. But I do have some recommendations for you. So this is a German version of Supergirl, a Woman of Tomorrow, and it is a fantastic comic. This comic blew my mind. It is a beautiful comic. You can open any page and you will see a beautiful spread. Thoroughly recommend it. Also, it is being turned into a movie by James Gunn right now, so you can get on the ground floor and become a fan of this comic before the movie comes out. I think it's fantastic. It's a beautiful comic, and it's just like a nice little finished story that you can pick up. Now, here is a comic that I recommend that's kind of weird. I picked it up recently. I kickstarted this one. This is called Frontier. Explore, Expand, Escape. That's a really crazy comic, and I love it a lot. I think this one is from the illustrator behind Citizen Sleeper. So they made a comic about people doing stuff in space. It is by a French person. This is a very French comic, but also reminds me a little bit of the Ghost in a Shell comics. It has that kind of narrative style where people have like these very heady ideas and discussing ideas, and it's a little bit incomprehensible in a way that's cool. Beautiful illustrations. They have like this crazy chibi art style that is kind of incredibly detailed. I don't know how this guy made this comic. I love it. Is his name Singelen? Yeah, his name is Singelen. Thoroughly recommend this one. I recently been unpacking some of the boxes that were still left over from my move to China, and I found this one. This is a comic that I love. This is something I loved returning to because it's just like incredible. This is obviously by Katsuhiro Otomo, which is the manga artist of Akira, but this is the other comic that he made, and very few people talk about it, and I think, okay, Akira is great. I'm not going to talk down Akira, all right? But this one is the one I love more than Akira. It is kind of like a supernatural detective kind of story set in a high-rise apartment building. It has a very oppressive atmosphere. It's a lot smaller escape than Akira, but also that makes it a lot more interesting to me. Akira is just so big, you know? Anyways, these were my comic recommendations. Don't get me started with comics. I will just talk about comics all day. All right, so let's talk about some of the changes I want to be doing. Let us talk about the things that you can expect on this channel to happen in the immediate future. So as I said, I kind of like didn't like the way the advanced Shmup tutorial kind of wasn't really a tutorial. It was more of a devlog, and I want to react on it. I want to maybe change a little bit the type of formats that I want to be having on this channel. So I kind of like came up with maybe 3 different formats. One would be just like a tutorial, like the basic Shmup tutorial, something that has 30 episodes max, you know, something that you can follow all the way through, and then you have gonna have a game at the end. I will still make it, you know, we will still code it live, and I will still make some decisions along the way, but it's not going to be, you know, so sprawling as the advanced Shmup tutorial. That doesn't mean I won't do big projects anymore. In fact, that's the second type of video that I want to be doing, or the second type of format that I want to be doing on this channel. That would be big projects. And yes, the advanced Shmup tutorial would be kind of like the big project, right? Those kind of projects I want to do differently now. From now on, those will be probably basically streams. I will be live streaming the development, so you can still follow along as I develop those. But I will probably be doing the streams only on Twitch, or maybe I will open up a separate channel, a stream channel for lazy devs. And on this channel, I will only release like summaries of the stream. So every month I will do like a summary of what happened throughout the streams, and that will give you an ability to follow the development of the game, to have a rough idea of what's happening without having to, you know, watch every single minute of me sitting at the keyboard, right? And if you do want to see me type every single line, you would be still able to join in the streams or check out the VODs. So that's how I want to handle big projects. And then the third thing that I haven't done yet, but I think would be fun, or kind of haven't done yet, are quick projects. So games that are done quickly and where I make one video to just summarize the development of the entire project. And I don't explain every single step, but I may focus on the most important aspects, on like maybe some one function that was like key to making the game work or something like this. These would be projects that last maybe a month max, and wouldn't be necessarily like completely finished games, but maybe more like a small demo or like a proof of concept. The idea that I had in my head around this is maybe I would try to attempt remakes of popular games. So that would be something that would be really good target for the platformers. So if there's any cool platformers that are popular right now, I could try to do a remake in Pico 8 and fail horribly, obviously, because it's Pico 8. But along the way, I could show how a platformer is made and maybe leave you with kind of like a framework to do your own platformers. And then, of course, we're still going to do one-off technical tutorial stuff, like the GPIO stuff, how to release stuff on Newgrounds and so forth. So that's something that's still going to happen, obviously. And yes, we're absolutely going to do hardware reviews. It's not going to be a hardware review channel, but there's two that have been a long time coming. One is the RG Cube XX, what a mouthful. So this device, I'm currently reviewing it. It will come out very, very soon. And the other device that I'm also reviewing right now, but that will be a bit later, is the U console. It's crazy, but I ordered one over a year ago and it just was now delivered. And it's a bit of a crazy story, but I have it now and I need some time with this one. That's something that will take some time. I'm especially interested to see how Picotron works on this, but Picotron doesn't have an RPI version, but I'm going to figure things out. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so these are two hardware videos that I'm currently working on. So these will also be happening on this channel as well. Now, this also means that another big change that I want to be doing is I want to be streaming a lot more. haven't been streaming a lot recently. I was kind of like in this kind of finishing up the tutorial kind of mode. But now I want to return more to streaming. And there's two channels that I want you to be aware of. There is one, the Twitch channel LazyDevs, twitch.tv/LazyDevs. That's where I'll be streaming all of the game development stuff like research and so forth. That's where all that happens. And the other channel I have is my private channel, twitch.tv/Chrisman. That's where I just like stream gaming. That's where I can just unwind and in the evening and stream some gaming. In fact, I have been streaming on twitch.tv/Chrisman a lot this month. I've been streaming a lot of Roadcraft, which is a weird game. It's very fun. And also, we've been doing a game of the month that I want to advertise. So every month now, we are picking one game that the community of Lazy Devs on our Discord that we will be playing together and commenting on. And so that's where I will be streaming. If I'm playing those games live on stream, that's where I will be streaming them on twitch.tv/Chrisman. And also you should check out the Discord channel if you want to participate in the Game of the Month discussion, if you want to maybe vote for a game for us to play. This month I've been playing a lot of Chrono Trigger, which is a game I've never played before. I heard many good things about it. Why is the game doing this? We had some rough starts at the beginning, but I'm slowly getting into it. And finally, one last warning. I will be more vocal about the coffee stuff. Yes, because this channel is supported by my coffee supporters, and the coffee channel has been going down slightly a little bit in recent times. I haven't been vocal about it that much. I haven't been explaining why you should support the show. So yes, you can support the show at coffee.com/lazydevs. And that also means that every month you will get a Lazy Dev log, kind of like a video like this one, where I talk about my month and talk about all the behind the scenes kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, definitely get on board with coffee.com/lazydevs. You can get access to those kinds of things with regular donations, but also with one-off donations as well. And of course, now that I'm starting a new project, that also means that coffee supporters will be more integrated into the early planning, will have more of a say of where this new project is going. I'm looking forward to that, actually. And so yeah, the only thing that is left for me to do is to thank all of my coffee supporters. Thank you so much for supporting me all this time. And thank you for everybody who sent in the questions, some excellent questions and remarks. Love it so much. So yeah, as I said, the next video is probably gonna be a hardware review video, and then we're gonna see what happens afterwards. Check out the live streams. See you next time around, guys. Bye-bye.